Peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. Want to deal with the root of the issues that's going on within our community. It's beyond what we can see. It's like the cartoon, the Transformers is more than meets the eye. You have the Decepticons. You have those who are being deceived by the forces that are surrounding us, and it's more to it than what we actually see. So many people, they focus on the physical things. You have people who get stuck on, racism. We get stuck on history of our people, and we have to go beyond that. Our issues go far beyond slavery. When you're dealing with drug addiction, you're dealing with alcoholism, you're dealing with incarcerations, and it's a pattern in people's family. This thing is spiritual. It's more to it than meets the eye. When you have somebody who is constantly talking about prejudice, then their mind hasn't evolved yet. All right. Again, one of the videos I touched on dealt with going beyond the issue of quote unquote racism. And so our minds have to evolve. Our minds have to get beyond, well, the white man did this and the white man did that. There's more to life than that. People have issues beyond racism. And when you continually focus on those things, what you're doing is you're keeping yourself mentally stagnant. You really don't see what the issue really is. When someone constantly talks about interracial relationships and they say, well, that person is selling out because they're dating somebody of another ethnicity, that means that their mind has not evolved. Your mind is shallow. Okay? You're so focused on the physical realm that you can't even get beyond racism or prejudice. You can't even get to the root of the issue because your mind is so focused on the flesh. You're thinking too much like a human being. When you understand that, first and foremost, the difference is between that and breeding out. When somebody willfully gets into a relationship with somebody of the opposite ethnicity, the difference is that breeding was forced on our people. Those two souls are marrying each other. They see beyond the flesh. They see beyond ethnicity. They've evolved into the spiritual level of love. So when your spirit man evolves, you no longer see somebody as an ethnicity. You see them as a soul. You don't see them as Caucasian or African or Mexican and etc. You don't see that. When somebody of two different ethnicities fall in love with each other, that's a very powerful thing. That's a very beautiful thing because they're not looking at the flesh. They're looking at the soul. The soul is who you are, first and foremost. Your flesh is not who you are. All right? You're a spiritual being having a human experience. Even though we do have issues within our community and those things need to be addressed, we have to go beyond prejudice and racism, and we have to deal with our people psychologically in regards to the things that they're going through. You have people that are wrestling with mental illnesses. Poverty within a lot of people's families is unfortunately a generational curse. That's why a lot of them are on welfare. A lot of them don't own their own homes. A lot of them don't have any higher education backgrounds. Okay, because in most families, you have people who feel like they can't be no more than what they are, and you have this spirit of darkness that's on them, and that's persuading them and telling their children that, oh, you don't need to go to college, you don't need to do this. I'm not nothing, you'll never be nothing. Listen, that is a spiritual issue. That is a spiritual issue. Okay? That's beyond a slave mindset. When you have perversion, you have children being molested, and you have adults wrestling with those issues. When you have children growing up without their fathers, or a child growing up without their father, and you have single parent homes, this thing is beyond slavery. This is spiritual issues. You have to look at the pattern in people's families, and you can see that this thing is beyond people talking about slavery all the time. You have to get to the root of this thing. You have to transcend beyond your flesh, and you have to start looking at things in a spirit being type of mindset. If you continuously keep feeding yourself with slavery, if you continuously focus on what the Caucasian people have done to us, you will never evolve. Your mind will stay stagnant, and you're going to be full of hate. You're going to be full of bitterness, because that's all you continuously expose yourself to. Some people economically are not in the situation they're in just because of what happened because of slavery. Some people don't have the knowledge and wisdom and understanding when it comes to economics. There are so many people today who have gotten out of their neighborhoods because they made the right choices to break the generational curse off of, their family. By them saying, I am going to go to college. Or by them saying, I am going to be a person that's financially stable. Or I'm not going to have a child out of wedlock. I'm not going to have children by multiple women. So these things can be broken. The cycle can be broken. And I noticed because my father had multiple children out of wedlock, and my son was born in wedlock. And I had a mindset that I'm going to get out of the ghetto. Okay? I did not allow me growing up in a broken home to keep me from going forward. I did not allow that to stop me. Although some of my friends around me, they felt like they couldn't get out of the game. Well, I made up my mind for me to get out of the game, and I got out of the game. It's a lot to do with a person's choices and the mindset that a person has. If you continue to watch things that are negative, and you continue to listen to things that are negative, and you continue to read things that are negative, then you're going to be a negative person. You're going to have a very low vibration. You're going to be a miserable person because you're constantly exposing your soul to these negative things. And when you watch these things, you listen to these things, when you speak these things, when you read these things, then it's a portal, and you open yourself up to that negative energy, that dark force. People can call it spookism all they want to. I personally have dealt with evil spirits, so I know what I'm talking about. Bottom line, you got to transcend beyond what you see. It's more to it than meets the eye. And let me tell you something. If you don't believe in extraterrestrial beings, if you don't believe in negative forces, That's the reason why you're in the situation you're in, because a lot of times people are wondering what's happening to them, but they refuse to believe, the actual problem that's actually going on, and it's supernatural. So you got to be able to learn how to deal with these situations in a supernatural manner. It does matter what comes out of your mouth, because if you keep saying that I'm nobody, I'm never going to do anything, I'm going to stay in the same place that I'm in, then you're going to continue to speak that, and it's going to manifest in your life. The reason why a lot of people continue to have negative things happen in their life, because they're constantly sowing negative seeds, and they're constantly planting negative thoughts, and they're constantly exposing themselves to negative things. If you're constantly listening to the cracker did this, they lynched our people, they're always trying to stop us from going forward. If you constantly keep feeding yourself with, then that's the vibration that you're going to be on, and you're never going to be able to talk about anything else. You're going to find yourself stuck there, and you're not going to be able to go forward because you're constantly exposing yourselves to that. I don't see anything good about gangster rap. I see nothing good about that at all. That is a very low vibration. They're talking about murder, drugs, sex. They have homosexual activity going on in their videos. They keep talking about I don't care. They're very careless. They live a very reckless and riotous life. So how is that benefiting you by you listening to that, by you watching that? If every time you turn around and that's all you keep hearing about is the white man this, the white man that, the white man this, the white man that, this, and this. Listen, sometimes it's called for, like, for instance, like the issue that's going on with Trump and how they set up, the electoral officials with white supremacists. Okay, that's okay to acknowledge that. Okay, look at their agenda. I got it. But then you got to move on from that. You got to be able to help people spiritually, because a lot of times people are dealing with things that are psychological. Whomsoever you submit your members into is who your master is. If you continue to submit yourself to a dark energy, then you're going to be a person that's dark. You're going to be a person that's always pessimistic. But when you submit yourself to, that which is of light, that which is pure, then you're going to be a person of purity. You're going to be a person of love. You're going to be a person of peace. You're going to be a person that's going to be able to get along with anybody, no matter what their ethnicity is, as long as they don't have a negative energy, because it's just like, two magnets. If you take a positive magnet and if you take a negative magnet and you try to bring those two magnets together, then they'll never come together, because one is positive and one is negative. So now you're dealing with positive and you're dealing with negative energy. So you got to get to the root of the problem. You got to get to, to the reason why you are the way you are. Like if somebody did you wrong and you keep holding on to that, that's why you're so bitter, because it's like a cancer, man. It eats you up on the inside. You got to let that thing go. You got to move on. Like a person that just look at somebody, and I'm talking about this is beyond what ethnicity they are. Well, I just don't like that person. You know what I'm saying? There's something that's spiritually going on inside of you. You can't get along with nobody. You know what I'm saying? You don't have a bunch of friends. You're always by yourself. You're very negative. Man, you got to get that negative energy off of you, man. You got to start, yielding yourself over to, light, man, and truth and positivity. You got to go beyond what you see. You got to get to the root of this problem. You got to start wondering, well, why do I act this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I talk this way? Because most people, it's so true, birds of a feather flock together. You don't see a bird that can fly and soar as high as an eagle with an eagle. because an eagle can fly higher than a cardinal. So you won't see a cardinal soaring with an eagle. So you got to surround yourself with people that are positive, that's on a higher vibration. You got to surround yourself with people that are aware of what's going on, but yet they're not allowing bitterness to enter into their heart. They just combat oppression, with what's right. They're people of light. They're people of truth. Like you hear some people say, oh, well, the Indians don't speak up for us when something go wrong with our people. It doesn't matter to me, because right is right, wrong is wrong. You know what I'm saying? I could care less if they don't speak out, for what's right for me. I'm going to speak out for what's right regardless. You can't let people influence you like that. You can't let people persuade you to be silent just because they're not speaking out. Right is right, wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter. And when you evolve in your mind, you'll start seeing things that way. You'll move out of this human man mentality. You know what I'm saying? And your mind will start evolving beyond what you see with your natural eyes. You'll start dealing with things as a spirit being. Your mind will evolve beyond this flesh, and you'll start actually acknowledging, and you'll start seeing what's actually going on. Because see, we're dealing with dark forces. Okay, that's the bottom line. We're dealing with spirits of wickedness in high places, man. We're dealing with dark forces. And the only way that you can combat these forces and these thoughts is with purity, with light, with truth. Your heart cannot be light as a feather. Like some of you, you say you subscribe to Kemetic science. Well, what about, the Hall of Mayat, the Hall of Justice, the Hall of Truth, when you're supposed to be judged and your heart is supposed to be weighed? Do you really think that you're going to be able to make it on Judgment Day with your heart full of bitterness and your heart full of hate? If you truly believe in that, if you truly believe, in your spirit man is going to go where you actually live your life. Like, in other words, you're going to go into darkness if you live a life of wickedness, and you'll go into a place of light, what we call heaven and what have you. You know what I'm saying? That is something that our ancestors did believe in. They did believe in the person not going to a place, that's good. Our ancestors did believe in going to a place of a higher realm, of a higher dimension. Okay? Our ancestors do believe in dark forces. They do believe, in negative energies. Most Africans, so-called Africans, you check their tribes, they do believe in a higher power. And they do believe in dark forces. And the more that you expose yourself to negative things, the more you expose yourself to, hate, then that's what you're going to become. You are what you eat. All right? If you keep exposing yourself to hateful things, then you're going to be a person to hate. If you expose yourself to things of truth and of light and of love and of peace, all right, no matter what somebody's ethnicity is, then that's the type of person you're going to be. You have to get beyond racism. You have to get beyond slavery. You have to get beyond that, man. You got to get beyond that. When you start judging your brother and your sister because they're dating outside of their ethnicity, you know what you are? You're shallow in your thinking. You're shallow. You're shallow in your thinking. Your mind is still so bound up by, the breeding, okay, the forcing into, having sex with Caucasian people that you're not even paying attention to. Both of those people got married to each other willingly. Okay, that's the big difference. That's the difference between breeding, because the slaves were taken by force to different plantations to breed. And also the slave master raped our ancestors. So the difference is today is that they're marrying them by their own free will. They're not marrying them because of them being forced and being married to them. And a melanated woman that's married to a Caucasian or engaged to a Caucasian and dating a Caucasian, the difference is that she's willfully dating that person. Willfully dating that person. Again, That's when your mind transcends, when you don't see race, when you don't see ethnicity, when you just see a soul. That's when you are truly conscious. That's when you are truly conscious. When you can intermingle with anybody of any other ethnicity and you can respect them as a human being, that's when you have transcended. That's one thing I like about Buddhism. All right, I'm not a Buddhist, all right, but what I'm saying is they're people of peace. Those involved in Confucianism, people of peace. All right, you don't never see them walking around talking about they hate this person, they hate that person, oh, I hate this person. That's not something that they do. And a lot of you talk about the African way, and a lot of you really truly don't know the African way, because you don't hear them over in the motherland talk about, oh, they hate this person, they hate that person, except for if there's a tribal war. And a lot of times people don't want to deal with that. But Shaka Zulu, by historical evidence and fact, he killed his own brother, and his brother killed him. Okay? So you have over in Sudan, where the melanated so-called African Muslims killed so-called African Christians. Okay, so now why did they do that? Why did they kill their brother? Why did they kill their sister? You know why? Because of brainwashing, the negative energy. They were brainwashed to believe that what they were doing is the right thing to do. That's the reason why. So you're being brainwashed to believe these things. You got to unlearn these things. You got to get set free in your mind. When you truly become conscious and aware of what's going on, you start understanding that it is evil forces that's behind what's actually going on, that's influencing people. And you start understanding that some of these people are dealing with mental illnesses, and they're dealing with generational curses. They're dealing with things spiritually that's going on inside of them. Why is it that a lot of our children start cutting the fool in school? Why is it that a lot of our children are getting involved in a life of crime? Again, it's what they're exposed to. It's what they're listening to. It's what they're watching. It's the people that they're hanging around. So it's not slavery that's causing them to gangbang and sell drugs and get drunk and get high. No, it's exposure. They're constantly listening to songs saying they're getting drunk, they're getting high. You know what I'm saying? That you know, they don't care, that they're going to get that money, calling females female dogs. So again, if you look at the root of the problem, then you start understanding it's all about what they're exposing themselves to, what they're opening themselves to. Why do a lot of our men devalue women? Again, it's because of what they've seen and what they're hearing. It's because of what they've been taught. Because visual is also a way to be taught as well. All right. So when they see things visually, they're actually being educated in regards to how to treat a woman. Like if I pull the chair out, right, then my son is going to see that. If my son see me kissing my wife's hand, my son is going to see that. If my son hear me calling my wife beautiful and calling my wife a queen and calling all my cousins and my homegirls and my female friends queens, then if my son constantly keep hearing that and he constantly keeps seeing that, me open up doors and doing chivalry, that's what my son is going to be exposed to, and that's all he's going to know. He's not going to know any other way to treat a woman other than what he has actually seen and what he's actually heard. So it's exposure. If a young lady constantly keep hearing somebody tell her she's ugly, she's not going to be anything, and she constantly keep having this rehearsed in her ears, you know what I'm saying? And she was molested by her uncles, molested by her granddaddy, molested by, somebody she don't even know. That woman is going to devalue herself. That is a negative energy. That is a negative force. That woman is valuable, but because of what she's constantly been exposed to, that's all she's going to see herself as. So this thing is spiritual. If you keep constantly telling yourself, oh, I'm ugly or I'm fat, nobody's going to want me, then you know what? That's what you're going to believe, and that's what you're going to see yourself as, and that's the way you're going to constantly see yourself, as a woman that's unattractive that nobody's going to want. You got to stop speaking that. You got to stop exposing yourself to these things. You got to make sure you watch and be careful about what you listen to, what you're hearing, and what you're reading. I love you. Get to the root of the problem so you can solve your issues, so that you can be free in your mind and you can walk in liberty. And do not listen to people who are negative, you know what I'm saying, that are not dealing with the issue at hand. Let's move on from this and let's transcend. Let's get to the root of the problem. All right. Let's learn how to war in the spirit, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities and powers, rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. I am telling you that we're dealing with supernatural things. You could call it spookism all you want. I guarantee you, I've seen devils cast out. You understand? I had devils cast out of me. So you can say whatever you want to say. I know that thing is real. I know it's real. I know it's real. My father was incarcerated. I was incarcerated. My father had issues with numerous women. I had issues with numerous women. My brother had the same issue. My brother was incarcerated. My brother had issues with numerous women. But I made up my mind to break that thing off of my life. I have refused for me to continue to expose myself to these negative things. I don't listen to gangster rap. Before I went to go do crime, when I was a drug dealer and I was a gangbanger, I used to listen to that stuff. I am telling you, you play it into you, you got to play it out of you. You got to get listen to some gospel music. Listen to that. There's a positive energy. There's a powerful energy on gospel music. There's a powerful energy on it. Because it's music of light to drive out the darkness. Just like you played the darkness in, I'm telling you, you're going to have to play it out. Just like you expose yourself to the darkness, you're going to have to expose yourself to the light in order for you to drive them things out. Play peaceful music. Play music with taste and class. Play some Motown music. Play some music of love. Play some soft jazz. Play something of peace. Play something on a higher vibration. Get your frequency up. Stop listening to all that other garbage. Get to the root of it. This will help you solve your problems. I promise you this. I promise you this. It will help drive the darkness away. Pray. Meditate. Focus on that which is good. Take out time to pray. Pray to the Supreme Creator. Pray for peace. Pray for love. Pray for light. Pray that these negative energies and these forces will loose themselves from you, and pray. Ask the Father of light, the Father of truth and of love. Mayat, peace, justice. Isis, love. Pray. Get these negative energies and these negative forces out of your life. Surround yourself with light. Surround yourself with truth. And I guarantee you, you'll start seeing a change. It'll change your atmosphere. It'll change your life. Peace and many blessings. Love you.